hellish jail cell of a time gone by, to haunted halls and ghostly cries. Come one, come all, come finders and seekers. Come hear the creepy side of NEPA.
Hello and welcome to the Creepy Side of NEPA. I am Dan Kozlowski. On tonight's episode, we have Jason Talmadge from the PA Bigfoot investigations coming in to share with us some more local stories and sightings of Bigfoot. I'm sure everybody out there heard something about Bigfoot over the years. Maybe you're sitting at a campfire at night and somebody shared a story with you. Maybe you turned on TV and you see an investigation group trying to track down Bigfoot out in the woods somewhere. Tonight, Jason's going to share with us his stories. Hi, Jason. Thank you for joining us on the Creepy Side.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure, and looking forward to telling some stories here and letting everybody in on what's going on in Bigfoot as far as NEPA goes. We got lots of stories.
Now, I got to ask before we even get started, how did you get interested in Bigfoot?
All right. Well, ever since I was a kid, I remember being in 4th and 5th grade getting school books from the local library, and every now and then you'd see like a documentary or TV show on the History Channel, and then it kind of went by the wayside for a little bit, and then the show Finding Bigfoot came out. I'm like, oh my God, people actually go out and do this, and there's groups involved in it. So a friend of mine pointed out to a local group, and I got involved with those guys, and a few months down the line, a few of us decided to branch out on our own and form Pennsylvania Bigfoot Investigations, and that was in November of 2013, and here we are 6+ years later, almost 90 investigations in, 80% of which are right here in Northeast PA.
Now, is there a lot of Bigfoot sightings in Pennsylvania?
We actually rank 3rd in Bigfoot sightings.
Oh, wow. I didn't know we were that high.
Yeah, this past May, there's a report that came out, and I think we had around 12 or 1,300 sightings and different types of Bigfoot encounters in PA, and that's not even taking into account local grassroots groups like our group, which probably in Northeast PA, I've documented between 60 and 70, and I actually just documented one about 2 days ago.
So right up till now, you're doing them?
Right up until now, yeah. We're taking reports and investigations. And
so do you do them year-round, basically, then?
Basically year-round. Kind of right around hunting season, late October, early November, until about mid-March is kind of our off-season. Not much is going on as far as getting reports or getting out on investigations. But usually March business, tends to pick up a little bit.
Right. Now, I know last episode we had Stan Zurich on, and he touched a little bit about Bigfoot sightings in like the Suskin area, Pittston Township. Is that mostly where they're happening in this area, or are they all over the area?
They're definitely all over the area. We kind of have a couple local hotspots right now. Of course, you always have your Suskin and Thornhurst areas. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest hotspot areas the past couple of years for us, pretty much, believe it or not, has been the Dallas, Back Mountain, Francis Slocum area. We've actually gotten a lot of reports out of there. And out towards the Hunlocks Creek and Sweet Valley area, we've gotten a lot of reports. Okay.
Now, anything happened to you personally while you're out there investigating?
I've had just about every experience but seeing one in person. We found footprints. We have footprint castings. We've had interactions with them. But just, missing that catching lightning in a bottle moment of seeing one in person.
Just a little bit short, huh?
Yeah, just that much. So we'll get there, That's why we keep doing it. 90% of the time, we come back with nothing but a nice hike and good conversation in the woods, but it's that 1 or 2 pieces of evidence you get a year that keeps you coming back.
Of course. How about any stories you want to share with us tonight?
Absolutely. You know what? I'll start with one I got about 2 days ago.
Okay. Yeah, let's start the most current.
Fresh off the press. This one, the person contacted me. They're out in Scott Township, which is right above Clark Summit that way.
Okay.
And they've had some ongoing Bigfoot stuff on their property. Their little daughter actually reported something looking in her window, which for Bigfoot stuff isn't all that uncommon. They're known to, peek in windows. So the daughter kept telling the mom, the big hairy man with the big eyes is looking in my window.
Wow, very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And They also reported that they've heard weird chit-chat and noises out on their property. They have a apple tree out there that they believe the Bigfoot was actually feeding from and taking the apples. And at one point, her and her boyfriend were sitting on the porch this past summer and caught a glimpse of something large and black. So they put trail cameras up. Well, the Bigfoot was not too happy. They put trail cameras up. They put a big dent in the outbuilding of their property. And,
it does not sound like it was happy.
Yeah, kind of let it known that, hey, you're kind of ruining my, feast on the apples. And she also reported that a lot of the neighbors have had chickens and other small farm animals stolen.
So was their backyard basically like a wooded area?
Basically, their backyard is out that way. There's Gamelands 307.
Okay.
And when I looked at the map of Gamelands 307, there's a lot of power lines connecting through that section of Gamelands, and power lines for Bigfoot is kind of their version of them going up and down 81. It's kind of their highway system. Mm-hmm. Well, leading out of the power lines in Gamelands 307 is another set of power lines that go about half a mile across a large section of farm fields right to their property. So it was kind of my guess that the Bigfoot had been hanging out in the wooded area of Gamelands 307, follow the power lines across his farm field, and lo and behold, they have an apple tree. They have all sorts of, chickens and other small farm animals to eat, and, it's kind of a easy buffet for them.
So when you went out there, did you find any evidence of him?
Well, I haven't gotten out there yet. My plan is, right now, there's not much action going on. She reported that it mostly happens from the springtime until about late August. So I said, let me get out there maybe come April. That way, maybe I could find better signs of something. I said, if I go out there right now, other than documenting your story, I'm probably not going to find a lot of evidence.
So people mostly call you when they see something that happened on their property or see something in the woods. They'll give you a phone call. Is that how it usually works?
Usually they end up finding us on Facebook and they send us a message about their experience. Or also what happens is we'll post an investigation on Facebook and people will start commenting and sharing and tagging their buddies in it. And all of a sudden you go to a hotspot, and then by the time, the investigation is 2-3 days old, you have about 5 more stories out of the area.
Sort of just snowballs from your online post.
It's sort of, just snowballs from our online post. Like I said, another one of our big areas is kind of, believe it or not, the Back Mountain, Dallas, Francis Slocum area. If you're going out towards Francis Slocum and you're going over Bunker Hill Road right there,
okay, and
you get to the top of Bunker Hill Road, you look to the right or left, depending which way you're going, and there's a big set of power lines overlooking the entire valley. And
once again, like you said earlier, power lines.
Yeah, Cross Valley right there. I had a couple that were driving home from Francis Slocum, and they just happened to look over at the power lines and seen one walking along the power lines right into the wood line, stopped the car, put it in reverse, and kind of, watched it for a second and made sense of what they had just seen. Same couple, believe it or not, about 2 weeks later, they were walking on the Back Mountain Trail, and it was like super early, like 6-7 o'clock in the morning, and they were kind of joking about the experience they had and what they had seen, a short distance away, and, are we going to see the Bigfoot again? And all of a sudden, they said things started coming off the mountain at them, pieces of log and rocks, and so I went up and I met with that couple, and we walked the Back Mountain Trail, and, just to kind of get a sense of the area. Like the Back Mountain Trail, I've biked it, I've ran it, and I've never thought in my life, like, hey, that's an area for Bigfoot.
Right.
So we posted that, and about within 2 days of posting it, we had about 4 other stories. Another guy about 10 years prior to that, he had one cross the road in front of him at the corner of Mount Olivet and 8th Street.
Okay, so all basically in that general area.
Yeah, right in that general area. There's also a girl that had one walking across a tree line in her backyard. Another gentleman was finishing building his house, checking out the foundation late in the fall, had one walk across the tree line about 50 yards from where he was standing. Another gentleman getting on to the Cross Valley right there to go up through the rock cut just happened to look up same exact power line about a year later seen one running across a power line up there.
It does seem like a hot area, the way you're explaining all these stories, right, in that general area.
Right. And once that settled down, about a year later, I did it. I'm from Sawyersville, so
Okay.
occasionally, I'll go up and hike the mountain up there and just see if anything's going on, just because it's been such a hot area for us.
Right.
And went up there and posted a live video. Hey, we're out on an investigation. Stay tuned later for, our report. Somebody recognized where I was and sent me a 3-page story about her and her boyfriend, several times being chased off the mountain by something running after their quads. And
do you think it would be like just one, or do you think there's more than one in that area?
I definitely think there's more than one in that area. They tend to travel more in family groups, just like we do,
Okay.
Male Bigfoot, female Bigfoot, little juvenile Bigfoots. But and that snowballed into more very similar stories of people hunting on the mountain or riding quads on the mountain and getting spooked off the mountain by something walking around their camp late at night, or chasing them off the mountain when they're on quads.
Yeah, it seems like they're very territorial. They don't want to keep their area to themselves, or they don't want trespassers, so to speak.
Right. Actually, the mayor of Sawyersville, a short time after that, got 2 phone calls late at night from residents seeing one walking on the back road there.
Wow.
So it's definitely a hot area. We've even had our own experience in Francis Slocum ourselves.
What happened with your experience?
So it was one of those crazy late November 70-degree days, and got out of work and was like, all right, it's too nice to sit home. And my wife and I, who's also part of our group, went up and just decided, to hike in for about an hour, hike right back out. And we parked on the Carverton roadside, which is not as populated as the other parts of the park. Not many people hike over there. You
Right.
get everybody more over towards where, the rock shelter is and the boat launch and everything. So we walked in there off of Carverton Road, hiked in for about half hour, and started to hike back out when we came across the most god-awful smell, which is typical of a Bigfoot smell of at least reports we get. It's kind of that dead animal, think of it drenched in weeks-old deep fryer oil, just rotting away. And this,
Yeah, it does not seem like a good smell.
not a good smell at all. And it's the second time I had experienced that smell. The other time I experienced that smell was up on a Jonestown Mountain out in Berwick. And all of a sudden, we come back through, we get that smell, the hair on your arms start to stand up. And at this time, my wife just starts freaking out, saying, I know something's here. I know something's watching us. I could sense it. And she ran out of the woods back to the car. And I'm just sitting there like, come on, can't we look around?
Right.
But yeah, that
She
was
wanted to get out of there.
Wanted to get out of there. So that was, our story there from Francis Slocum. But like I said, in the past couple of years, we've probably got 10 to 12 different sightings and stories and encounters and really crazy stuff happening on that mountain right there.
So, like, when you go out to an investigation, what do you look for in the woods?
Usually, we'll look for any signs of footprints, or they build these weird, crazy tree structures. They'll take all these down trees and kind of make a structure out of them that's not natural, something you could tell that the wind didn't blow over. It's definitely not a hunting blind that a hunter built.
So would it be something like almost like a teepee-like, or
TP-like, other completely random, crazy-looking things. Something that you're walking by and you just kind of look at it and go, wow, I wonder how that got there.
Right. And they're probably larger trees that just like, they're not twigs we're talking about.
No,
right?
no, not twigs. I mean, I'm talking about, something that it would take 2 or 3 humans to take
Right.
this tree and move it around, and all of a sudden, it just appears. So, we'll look for those. We'll look for, footprints and other weird random stuff that's not really supposed to be there. Mm-hmm. And occasionally, if you watch the show Finding Bigfoot or look anything in the Bigfoot related stuff, we'll go off with a couple tree knocks and rock knocks, which is kind of just taking a big tree and banging it against another tree and kind of making like a weird popping noise, hoping we get a response back. They're known to do that to communicate with each other. It's kind of like a Bigfoot version of a text message.
Okay, so they communicate with each other by making loud noises, I guess, in the woods then?
Yeah.
Okay.
They also do that with rocks. They'll get 2 rocks and start banging them together, which leads me into another story. last week you had Stanley on up, and this is up in his neck of the woods. This is up by the windmills up there in Wilkes-Barre.
Okay.
So our family has about an acre of land up there that's landlocked, so we have access to go up through the windmills and everything. So occasionally we'll go up there and camp, and this was 3 or 4 summers ago, and we decided we were going to do an overnight up there, and we walked out to a power line.
Okay. Again with the power lines.
Again with the power line, and we're standing on top of this hill, and you haven't, experienced hiking and Bigfooting unless you have to walk up and down a muddy hill in the 95-degree summer heat, which kind of stinks. But
yeah, especially if you happen to fall or something like that.
So we decide, all right, we're going to do some rock knocks, see if anything responds.
Right.
Now, the only people on the mountain that night is me and Bob, who I run the group with. My grandfather's about 2 miles back at camp. So we do 2 rock knocks. About 10 seconds later, 30 yards off to our side, we get a wood knock back. Do 2 rock knocks again. About 30 seconds later, get another wood knock back. And this goes back and forth for about 7 minutes. We do 1, nothing. Do 3, nothing. Go back to 2. We get a response back.
Interesting. Did it sound like it was close or farther away? Or couldn't you really tell?
It was about 30 to 50 yards out into the brush from where we were.
Oh, so it was pretty close.
It was pretty close, yeah. And then it seems like it moved about another 20 yards further down the hill from where we were before, if it was anything finally figured out, that we weren't another Bigfoot and that we were humans.
They wanted to get away from
Yeah.
So mostly are the Bigfoot sightings are at night, you would say, or is there any in the day?
Bigfoots are just like people. Some are night owls and hang out during the night. Other times you have daytime sightings. Some of the ones up there on the mountain in Swearsville and Francis Slocum, they were during the day. Some of them were at night. We've had experiences in both the daytime and nighttime. The interaction we had was at nighttime. The time we had actually a stick thrown at us by one, that was 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that was up in Thornhurst, up in the Pinchot State Forest. So the story with that is we were walking a game road and talking about Bigfoot and just having a good conversation. And all of a sudden, off to our right, something really crazy, loud growled at us. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't another person. We were the only ones up there. So we got growled and we're like, oh my God. That was
it's something you're actually waiting to happen.
Yeah, something crazy. So by the time about 30 seconds later, we kind of gained our composure from that and walked about another quarter mile up the road, and all of a sudden a stick comes flying out of the woods, bounces off my backpack. One of our other group members, Rob, it almost hits him in the head after it bounces off our backpack. And it was actually Rob's first time going out with us, and he thought, I had set something up to, mess with him. I'm like, no, absolutely not.
Very interesting. Now, when you go out in your investigations, do you ever feel like you're in danger at all? Do you think they're, I guess you would say, dangerous, or do you think they're more passive?
Definitely more passive. I mean, if they want you out of the area, they're going to intimidate you. They're going to growl at you. They're going to throw things at you, kind of let you know they're there. But as far as Bigfoot behavior and aggressiveness goes, the most accurate Bigfoot movie is Harry and the Hendersons. They're kind of that passive. And they get a lot of slack from all these, crazy, creepy, scary movies that come out that peg them as killers and manhunters.
They have to make it look good for TV.
Yeah, but the most accurate Bigfoot movie out there is actually Harry and the Hendersons. But I mean, anytime you go out in the woods, you're taking that risk of what are you going to run into. Bigfoots are the last thing I'm worried about having, a run-in with. I'm more worried about coyotes and bears and running into other crazy people out there doing, You don't
even know what.
Yeah, God knows what. So, and ticks.
Jason, I got to say, I'm a little curious. When you walked in with this rather large box into the studio here. What did you bring with you today?
All right. Well, actually, now what I brought to show you, and because we're on a podcast, obviously, the folks at home aren't going to get to see it, but I did bring castings in. And
actually, what I'll do is I'll take some pictures of the castings, and we have a Facebook page.
Okay.
That way our viewers, or our listeners, I should say, would have time and look it up on our Facebook page, and they can see it from there.
Okay. So the castings we have are ones we took actually out of Wapwallopin.
Okay.
So Rob, one of our group members, he lives out there, and he's got woods in his backyard that runs into a power line.
Again, with the power line. It really seems like they do like the power line area, like you said earlier.
Right. So his son was out there just kind of walking around the woods and messing around, comes running in the house. Dad, you got to check this out. You got to check this out. I think I found Bigfoot footprints out there. So Rob goes out and starts looking at these tracks, and as you know, the viewers will see on the pictures, they're twice the size of a human footprint. You know, we have definitions of toes, and gets on the phone with us, and you know, we're on the phone for about 45 minutes, and I went up the next day and we actually casted a lot of them. Mm-hmm. So that was 3 years ago.
Now, when you're always talking about the power lines, do you have any theories like why they always seem to hang around that area of power lines?
It's kind of a way for them to get from point A to point B instead of walking through the deep forest. I mean, late at night or when no one's around, that's going to be the quickest way for them to get from point A to point B in the woods.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, it's kind of their version of, you know, traveling down 81.
So they're just following them as like a direction point, basically.
Right.
It's nothing to do with the actual electricity or anything like that or energy.
No. At least our theory is, it's just kind of a highway system for them to use. Listeners who haven't checked out our Facebook page, this past summer we actually did a piece with ABC's Localish, and they sent a reporter up from Philadelphia along with the cameraman, mm-hmm. and I took them out in the woods, and this was out towards going up by Moon Lake.
Okay.
So right across from Moon Lake's a reservoir. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but we've had stories from this place going back about 40 years.
Now, this was the reservoir near Moon Lake, right? Okay.
Yeah, basically right across Route 29 from it. And it's part of the Pinchot State Forest. Mm-hmm. And so we're out there kind of just messing around, recording. At the one point, I'm pretty sure I found a tree structure. And they wanted to get a time-lapse video of the sun going down over the reservoir. So we're out there sitting on this, you know, big rock watching the sun go down. We're out there for about 45 minutes. I think I fell asleep for about 20 minutes. And we start to walk out of there back through the woods, and we got the feeling something was there watching us the entire time, because as soon as we started walking out, about 20 yards off to our side, something pushed over a really big tree, and all of a sudden you hear crash, boom, and it was one of those really still, calm nights. There's no wind, you know, not many animals were out making any types of noises, and all of a sudden, boom, something pushes over a tree.
Yeah, just like you were saying before, like they're trying to protect their territory or trying to scare you away almost.
Right, or kind of saying, hey, we knew you were there for 45 minutes, and we're going to let you know we were there watching you, just so you know.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to mess with you a little bit. And like I said, that part of Hunlocks Creek, sightings there go back for about 40 years, and about a mile up the road from there, we also had a road crossing sighting off of Swamp Road, dirt road, and it was a family, and they were just driving down the road, and the wife and daughter seen it cross the road right in front of them about 30 yards up from where they were driving, hop an embankment, and go up about a 60% grade.
Wow. Yeah, they seem like they can move pretty quickly.
Yes. Yeah, like I said, even there on Swearsville Mountain, reports of them chasing people off the mountain while riding quads. You know, a couple people reported that as they were being chased, they were, you know, booking it down the mountain. Whatever this was keeping up with them.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I never knew they were this close to the area, there's sightings. I always heard of sightings, but I always heard them in like a different state, a different side of the country even. Never really heard them this close to this area.
Right, yeah. Like I said, Pennsylvania actually ranks third in sightings. And when you look at a Google map of Pennsylvania, you know, you have your Philadelphia and your Pittsburgh and your Harrisburg, but 80% of the state, you're looking at deep woods and farmlands. And
it does make sense when you think about it. There's a lot of wooded area in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I mean, you even go up to, say, an area like Ricketts Glen. Right there in Ricketts Glen, you have, you know, the state park, and you also have game land 66 and 57, and all three intersect, and they form about 160,000 acres of absolutely nothing.
It's a big area for them out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I always tell people, we live in the Wyoming Valley and the Wilkes-Barre area, but I could literally go 10 minutes in any direction of where I live and have somewhere to go and look for Bigfoot.
Very interesting. It's sort of definitely gets you thinking that you're not the only one out in the woods when you're there.
Right. Like I said, we've gotten reports out of the Back Mountain. We've gotten reports out of Hunlocks Creek and Sweet Valley. We've gotten reports out of Mountaintop. A lot of reports come out of Thornhurst and Suskin. We have reports going all the way down Route 11 into the Riverlands there and up to Jonestown Mountain there in Berwick. We found footprints up there past Ricketts Glen, going towards like Elks Grove.
So it really does span across the whole area here of northeastern Pennsylvania.
Right, yep.
Now, if anyone was looking to contact you on a Bigfoot sighting, how would they get a hold of you?
All right, easiest way to get us is just through Facebook. In the search bar, you could just type in Pennsylvania Bigfoot Investigations or facebook.com/PA Bigfoot INV.
Okay, and if you want to check out our Facebook page, I will be posting some pictures of these castings that Jason brought in tonight. I'd like to thank you for coming in tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, and, I look forward to seeing what comes of it and if we get any more stories from it.
Be sure to keep us informed.
Oh, I will.
Have a good one. Thank you for listening to the Creepy Side of NEPA. If you would like to see a photo of the castings Jason brought in this evening of the footprints he found of Bigfoot, please visit our Facebook page, which is called WNEP's Creepy Side of NEPA. There you'll be able to find the photos, and also, while you're there, don't forget to give us a like. If you have a creepy story that happened to you in northeastern or central Pennsylvania, please let us know. Send us an email. Our email address is ghost@WNEP.com, and maybe we'll feature you on our next episode. Most of all, don't forget to subscribe or follow, depending on the podcast platform that you listen to us on. That way you'll always be informed when a new episode is released. Till next time, enjoy the creepy side.
This has been the Creepy Side of NEPA. If you have a spooky story that took place in a northeastern or central PA, send it to ghost@WNEP.com for a chance to share it on an upcoming episode. We are dying to hear from you.